This is one of my favorite things to share in this presentation because oftentimes we say children are misbehaving. And of course, that's true. But it's really not them misbehaving sometimes. Many times they have what we call mistaken behaviors. And I like this because it's so true. We sometimes lose perspective when it comes to young children, especially our toddlers, our twos and our threes and our fours, even sometimes that just make a lot of mistakes in their behavior because they are young and they are trying things out and they are pushing the limits, and that's part of being a young child. But we have to recognize as teachers of young children that they will make mistakes in their behavior and they will do this often, and this is how they learn. And as earlier in the presentation I asked you, what are some behaviors that are kind of not tolerated, you just can't stand? um, what are some that you think are off limits? You will have a child that mistakes their behavior in these areas and other areas that maybe aren't so crucial to you. But we have to really look at ourselves as early childhood professionals and know that children are making a mistake. Sometimes they're making mistakes for the wrong reasons, but we should expect children to make mistakes in their behavior every single day. And we have to have patience when we interact with them during this time. There's three main reasons that children have mistaken behaviors. One is because they're becoming more independent. They're going to try things out. They're going to spill things. They're going to break things. They're going to have trouble following directions. Uh, my nephew was with us this weekend. It was nice out, and he got in the sandbox um, for probably the first time since maybe some limited exposure last fall. And he was having a great time out there, and there were some other children around. And at one point, he started throwing sand out of the box, and some of the sand got in somebody's hair and somebody's eyes. And, um, and your first reaction is to yell. Now, there's a time when you need to stop a behavior immediately if there's a safety concern. No one was really in any real safety risk, and that first tendency to yell, it scares everybody, and it will probably stop the behavior. But what happens is the child feels like they've done something wrong, and in this case, we don't want him throwing sand, but he honestly didn't know that this was something bad. He was really putting sand outside of the box, and he was kind of doing it forcefully. And we stopped him and said, you can't throw the sand outside of the box because you won't have any sand in your sandbox to play. And we also said that it hurts if it gets in people's eyes. And when you throw it, sometimes the wind blows it. And he was really, he wasn't upset with himself, but he was very apologetic. I'm so sorry. Um, and he's a sweetheart of a kid. But he stopped. The behavior stopped. And he'll probably throw sand another time in his life. But what we see is when children are making independent decisions, they sometimes do things that they don't even know are wrong. And so instead of yelling at them, we need to think about the perspective of the child and make it a teachable moment. Another reason why we have mistaken behaviors are the result of new language skills. These young children, especially our toddlers, they don't really have the skills to communicate what is going on. Sometimes they get frustrated because they can't let you know what's going on. Sometimes they use the wrong words. Sometimes they feel angry and don't know how to express that. So we oftentimes see a result of that frustration coming through the rest of their behaviors. And that kind of ties into that third one. Sometimes it's that they can't, not that they can't say something, but they can't do something they want to do. If they can't do something a big kid is doing, or they're trying to do something that they're just not physically or mentally ready for, they get frustrated. And so you may have tantrums. How many of you have ever seen a child when they're tired or hungry react and make a lot of mistakes in their behavior? That happens, and that's because they're not quite ready for doing everything on their own or understanding everything. So sometimes those mistaken behaviors are a reaction. It's important as teachers we keep this all in perspective, and it will guide our interactions that follow the mistaken behavior.